Welcome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Juanita Dawson, and I am an executive council member for the AARP California State Office. And I welcome you to this very enlightening conversation with two exceptional individuals about the influence in their lives that has led them to pursuing everyday excellence. Before I introduce our panelists, let's do a quick poll. What is the definition of excellence? Do we have the poll?
Yep, it's coming.
What is that definition of excellence? What do you all think? The quality of being good or mediocre? The quality of low-grade materials? The quality of being outstanding or extremely good? Go ahead and submit your answers there. Thank you so much for participating in that poll and for joining us tonight. If you're not, oh wow, here's our responses here. Oh wow. Okay, the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. That was your response. This is great. Thank you all for participating in that poll and for joining us. If you're not familiar, AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people to choose how they live as they age and to age with confidence. And with the nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to the more than 100 million Americans 50 plus and their families, including health security, financial resilience, and social connections. Now it's time for you to meet our panelists. Our first panelist is Nurse Alice Benjamin, widely recognized as America's favorite nurse. Alice Benjamin is an accomplished family nurse practitioner and clinical nurse specialist with over 25 years of frontline healthcare experience. Her diverse expertise spans critical care, emergency medicine, cardiology, and community health, making her a trusted advocate for patient wellness and education. Alice's dedication to heart health is deeply personal. After losing her father to sudden cardiac arrest, she transformed her grief into a mission to empower individuals with the knowledge and tools needed to prevent and manage cardiovascular disease long before they ever became her patients. By blending evidence based practice, a little TLC, and community outreach, Alice equips audiences with actionable strategies to live healthier, more informed lives. In addition to her clinical work, Alice is a respected educator, media health contributor, and public speaker who has collaborated with leading organizations like the American Heart Association, AARP, and NBC News. She's also the host of the Ask Nurse Alice podcast, a recent Apple Top 10 medical podcast, and founder of AskNurseAlice.com, a trust health and wellness platform. Her warm, approachable style and proven expertise make her an ideal guide for navigating complex health topics and championing preventive wellness.
Oh, you
Introducing Nurse Alice. Hi.
you are hi, you are too kind. You are too kind. Listen, Wadi, all I know is I love what I do. I love taking care of people. And so when I hear introductions like that, I'm like, I did all that. But when you're doing the work and you're passionate about it, you don't look for those things. You just do what makes you happy and makes the people happy. So thank you for having me.
Step off
Oh,
mute.
Juanita, you're on.
Yes. So thank you so much, Nurse Alice, and we'll come back to you shortly. So next, I'd like to introduce Lonnie Horn. Born in Chicago and raised in Sacramento, Lonnie Horn is an entrepreneur, barber, and real estate broker who has built a legacy of community and business excellence. Starting his entrepreneurial journey at just 9 years old with a pair of clippers, Lonnie turned his passion for barbering into world-class faders, a staple barbershop in Sacramento's Oak Park community, and later expanded with world-class stylers, a hybrid barbershop and salon. A licensed real estate broker with Keller Williams Realty, Lonnie masterfully blends his expertise in business and real estate to empower his community through resources, mentorship, and opportunity. His story is one of resilience, innovation, and a deep commitment to uplifting others. Let's welcome Lonnie.
Thank you all. I'm so honored to be here. So honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Lonnie. So let's bring Nurse Alice back on the screen and just get into our conversation. And everyone online, please use the chat to raise any questions, share your thoughts, express ideas, and more. We'll use what you place here during our question and answer section of tonight with our panelists. Okay, so let's start. The struggles and achievements and ongoing efforts of Black Americans have influenced a lot of the social structures, cultural movements, and systems of support in ways that ripple through everyday life. And I can reflect on some of those forces that impact a lot of the individuals. So, Nurse Alice, when it comes to your life, how has the history of Black Americans played a role for you?
Well, African American history has profoundly shaped my experiences, and particularly in healthcare. We, as Black Americans, have long faced systemic barriers to equitable and quality healthcare. And I do have a personal story. My father died of sudden cardiac arrest in our community emergency room that was overworked, under resourced, and quite frankly, and we didn't really recognize at the time was not a hospital that had the resources to provide the quality of care as other areas, perhaps in our white neighborhoods. And so that personal experience, along with other historical events, we think of the Tuskegee study, which African Americans were denied adequate care. We were subjected to unethical experimentation, and even things with the misuse of Henrietta Lacks cancer cells without her permission. So there's lots of historical things that have shaped my initial perception of healthcare: inequitable, unfair, inequality. And what that did for me was fan the flames to the fire, and inspired me to want to do more, to want to make things better, not just for myself and my immediate family, but for those in my communities, those who look like me, and maybe even those who don't look like me. But we know that there's a significant amount of brown and black people, disadvantaged groups, people of lower socioeconomic groups who just didn't have access to quality care. And everyone wants to live a healthy life. Everyone wants to be healthy. I can't think of a person who's ever come to me and says, I want to be sick. And so considering the history that Black Americans have faced, especially in healthcare, my personal experience, that has motivated me. And then I get inspired by some of the great Black Americans that are out there, like Charles Drew, who revolutionized like blood banking, and we'll get into other stories, but I was inspired by that. And so I think those things collectively have fueled my mission to want to educate, advocate, and create more equitable and healthcare spaces. So and that can look in a variety of ways, whether it's mentoring, whether it's the direct care that I provide to people, or if it's influencing my colleagues and the healthcare system. And that can even lend itself to health policy as well. I'm here for the long run. I'm here to make things better. So I've been inspired by the not so good things, but also seeing seeds of Black excellence well before me, inspiring me to know that there's opportunity to do better and to do more for our people.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Nurse Alice. And Lonnie, what do you think when it comes to your life? How has the history of Black Americans played a role for you?
Um, you know, my experience and my knowledge of Black history is a little different, and not just from Alice, which I really appreciate her being so transparent, but also from a lot of friends of mine who were raised in pro-Black families and were taught the importance of our Black history. My family, I was raised by some strong Southern women, from Mississippi, who their main focus was not about making sure I knew how important my Blackness was as a Black man or a Black person. Their importance was making sure I was a good person, making sure that I was responsible, caring, uh, did my homework on time, those type of things. We just didn't have that kind of dialogue in my family. So it's kind of interesting because when I fast forward to me leaving Chicago as a kid, coming into Sacramento as a teenager, that's where I met most of my, lifelong friends who were raised by pro-Black parents, who spoke that from as early as they could remember. So I would hear this in movies and TV shows and from friends, but I really truly did not understand it myself. And I never pretended like I did. I could walk in any room, no matter what race the room was full of, and I could be myself and comfortable. So it was an advantage in that sense. But then I got to a point in my life where I started to just find out about history, Black history, and particularly some of the Black Panther movement, some of the Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street experience, and it just showed me how ignorant I was to all that Black people had gone through just for us to be able to do what we're doing now. So I actually went on a binge. When COVID hit, I was actually forced to sit home because I was sick. And I watched Malcolm X for the first time fully. And when I watched it, I I just got really emotional. I got really frustrated, and I got really obsessed with more Black history because I didn't realize that this stuff had just happened. This is just a few decades ago that all this had happened. So now I could hear all of my friends' voices and their parents' voices in those movies I talked about echoing back over those years where I was so ignorant to the purpose behind what they were saying. And I got it. I absolutely got it. And I think particularly when I found out about uh, the Black Wall Street, massacre and that experience, that felt so unfortunate that I almost can look in today's time and see the direct results of that kind of stuff. So I would have people walk into my businesses and they would say things like, "Oh, brother, it's so nice to see a Black-owned, business, a Black man doing this and doing that," and it was nice, but that just wasn't what I was titling myself. I'm not avoiding being Black. I'm Black. But it was just I didn't tie those in so much, and I didn't understand the importance of tying those in until getting more of this research and this knowledge. So it heightened my sense of pride in being a Black owner, and it helped me understand how important that history really is. And it gave me a broader perspective on how these people are seeing me. I didn't understand how they were seeing me. It wasn't that I was trying to avoid it. I just didn't understand it. If you don't know, you don't know. So it really brought me to a point where when a person says, "I'm proud to see you, Black man, in the community. We need this." I hear this a lot now. We need to see a model like you doing what you're doing. I'm inspired. And this is from teenagers, 20 something, 30 something, 50, 60 something. And so I definitely understand the magnitude. I understand the impact that it has now. So hopefully that answers it from my perspective.
Yeah, that is so great, Lonnie. Thank you so much for that. And it is a great segue into talking about the history. The history of Black Americans has inspired countless people to challenge the status quo, fight for justice, build more inclusive communities, whether through the arts, activism, politics, or education. The contributions of Black Americans continue to shape contemporary life. And I find empowerment in the history of that resilience and innovation, which has led me to pursue my own goals and become more connected to the broader community. So thank you for segueing into that. And before we go to Nurse Alice to talk about what Black history means to her, do we have any questions in the chat, Marissa?
We don't right this moment.
Not
So
yet? Okay, everyone, please feel free, put questions, comments in the chat. So, Nurse Alice,
Yes.
giving what Lonnie has said and me, what does Black history mean to you?
Black history is something that's so important. There have And I think when we talk about history, it's important that we recognize and acknowledge the struggles, the challenges, and the obstacles that our people have gone through, as well as to recognize that Black history not only has happened, but is still happening. We have a tremendous number of uh, Black scholars, researchers, educators, scientists, and people out there that are doing wonderful and great things. But we may not hear about it. We may not hear about it, and which is why. And then I'm thankful for AARP for inviting myself and Lonnie under the umbrella of Black excellence. I sometimes when I hear that, I shy away from that because I feel like there are so many other fellow Black Americans who've done so much more, and considering the extreme obstacles that have been placed in our way. Um, but I also find that there's I have some sadness also, because I also feel like much of our Black history has been forgotten, or is being uh appears that is trying to be rewritten, or stories told differently than what we know it to be. And I think it's important that we have forums like this, that we continue to study, we continue to read. And Lonnie, like you said, you watched was it Malcolm
Yeah,
X for the very first
Malcolm.
time. Listen, I've watched it, but myself, I too need to be reminded of it. And I think it's very important that we don't forget that. And we have to hold on to those things, because it is very easy for us to forget, or not necessarily forget completely, but the initial the significance, the struggle, the hardship that those prior to us have endured, so that we can have the things that we have today. It's very important that we keep those in mind, that we keep charging forward, acknowledging them, and continue to do the work. So when you ask me what is Black history to me, there's so much. And you know what? And I'm going to be completely transparent. I wish that I was able to recite all of the many things that happen in Black history. But I can't. And so that's why it's very important to be in forums like this and be reminded and speak to others about this. But it's something that we really got to talk about. And we have to recognize that Black history is still happening. And we have to understand that Black history also, and very much so, needs to be remembered and inserted in today's conversations as things are changing, as things are evolving. We can't forget all of the things that we had to struggle and fight for as we're moving forward. And I think, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, I'm a mom. I'm a mom, and I have and I have kids. I think some of my kids, I'll just put on my kids, because I know y'all kids is probably perfect. My kids, sometimes I feel like they underestimate the value of certain freedoms and things that we have today. And even though I'm going to be quite candid, and I'm gonna hit healthcare specifically. There's still very much systematic racism in healthcare. It's built into the systems. I see it. I see it every day when I go to work. Does it mean that uh, all of healthcare is bad? No, it doesn't. but it means that there's still lots of work to do. So that's why it's very important, especially for me in the work that I do, that I bring up things and discuss certain, and I'm going to go ahead and call them injustices that are still relevant in healthcare, and speak to why this is important and why we need to change processes and systems, and different testing measures. And I'll just give an example real quickly. So I work in the emergency room, and I do family practice. I take care of a lot of people who have chronic kidney disease. Um, and there is a particular lab value called glomerular filtration rate. We call it GFR. And it's a particular number that we watch. And generally, if it gets below 60, we're thinking like, okay, let's keep an eye on this. There's some kidney damage or kidney disease going on. And I'm going to encourage anyone to go to their healthcare provider to look at their labs, because there are still labs that still use this value. There is a regular GFR value, and then there is an African American GFR value. And that was actually a part of that's part of systematic racism, because long story short, when you have those two values, what happens is someone who's not Black will get the regular GFR, and they will be diagnosed with kidney disease earlier. And based on that number, they'll get to seek treatment, they'll get access to medications, therapies, once their number hits a certain level. African Americans, it takes a little bit longer for us to hit that value, which is why we often see that when African Americans are finally diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, they're on dialysis. It's like, well, what happened? What happened to the things before dialysis? What happened to the other treatments, medications, and things we could have done? The dieting, the other elements that could have given us an opportunity to not have to resort quite yet to dialysis. But that's because of those two different values. So I see things like that. The hospitals I work at, I'm safe to know that we have remedied that, but there are still several pockets of hospitals that have systematic racism like that. And that is something that Black researchers were able to discover quite some time ago. And that's part of Black history. Do I remember their name exactly? No, I don't. But that doesn't mean that their contribution wasn't valuable. And I'm going to give everyone on here permission to, don't feel bad if you don't recall someone's name historically, of someone who's contributed to Black history. We are a family of Black people, and we just need to work together. And we need to acknowledge that while we might not remember someone's name, we know the work that they did. And I know for a fact that there are several scientists, researchers out there, many who are Black, who have identified the systematic racism that happens in healthcare. And I'm going to go ahead and plug in one other one, hemoglobin A1C. There may be folks on here who are diabetic, and you look at your A1C to monitor your diabetes. Historically, did you know, and did you know that the hemoglobin A1C does not completely, is not the first line of choice for monitoring diabetes in African Americans, especially those who have sickle cell genes in their family. So like, these are things that they're very unique and specific things to healthcare that we as Black Americans need to know about. And it adds to the systemic racism that happens. And so when you talk about Black history, I want to acknowledge all the excellence, absolutely. But I would be remiss if I didn't also take it as an opportunity to highlight the researchers, academics, and other folks who have made strides to improve the things that we often take for granted.
Thank you so much, Nurse Alice. That was very, very enlightening. And you really gave us a lot of information that shows up in your everyday life. And you're passing that on. And that is definitely everyday excellence and how it shows up. Lonnie, for you, on your side of the entrepreneurship and the real estate market, what kind of ways are everyday excellence showing up for you?
Um, what I would love to really bounce off of one thing that Alice said that I really liked. And it took me a minute to really grasp this too, and I'm so glad you said it. We're still making Black history today, like right now, even what we're doing this moment, So I really love that you slowed us down enough to acknowledge that. For me, you know, I I look at it's kind of ties into what I mentioned a little earlier. I feel that I have the opportunity to use my businesses and model good Black leadership. And I lead more than Black people. I have a very diverse team. And I've learned that when people first start walking into my shop and saying, I've even had white people walk in my shop and say, I came here because it said it was Black owned. It showed up in the Black Yellow Pages. And I didn't even know what the hell the Black Yellow Pages were. I didn't even know I was in the Black Yellow Pages. I never registered with the Black Yellow Pages, never heard of it. But I guess there's community activists that go around and they do these tallies on their own, and they put us there to boost our community, so salute to them. But I kept hearing this over and over and over, and like I mentioned a minute ago, I used to have a little mental dilemma with this because it was never my goal was to put that title on anything. But after doing more research on Black history and understanding the pride that we need to have in our Black history, in the things that we're doing right now and creating to make history right now, I grew a sense of pride, and my perspective broadened on what it is that I'm able to do with the opportunities that God blessed me with. So these businesses, they became bigger than just making some money or paying your bills for your family. I realized that I've been put into a position of leadership, and how I lead is an example of Black leadership. And then when I also had this funny moment where when people say, "Oh, a Black barbershop," I'm like, "Well, I got a Hispanic lady over here. I have a white dude over here. I got a Filipino lady over here doing color." I get it now. It's still about the leadership, and I actually think I take even more pride in it now because I am leading more than Black hair professionals, and I am showing an even broader scale of what we can do as Black leaders. So again, I'm being transparent with you guys because again, I didn't come from that family who pumped this into my head. It was something that I'm age 46 now. I'm literally just starting to get this within the last 5 to 10 years of my life. So I definitely take pride in what I do in my leadership role now, and I understand that men, women of all ages are watching what I'm doing. So it makes me probably even more cautious of how I do everything. So I tell my team all the time, when you're a barber, when you're in the hair industry, we're being watched by everybody. And not only that, we're one of the premier shops in Sacramento, on one of the busiest streets in Sacramento, the most gentrified area in Sacramento, Oak Park. So we have news there all the time. We have people from all walks of life and races and cultures there. And I think I know I'm winning when I see that I'm hearing this from more than Black people. I'm hearing it from the different races. They're coming in and they're proud of what we're doing. And we're still us. We're not dumbing anything down. We're still us. We're really just building Black excellence, which is what you started this whole thing off with.
Wow, that is so great. That is great for both of you. Before we go to the chat, I think, just to kind of mesh all of that together and do like a mini summary, Black history really, really deeply influences how communities, resources, opportunities are even perceived and valued. And I think, Lonnie, you touched on that. And it highlights the importance of that collective action and underscores some of that ongoing need to address some of those systemic disparities that Nurse Alice talked about. And I think for me, the personal impact can be very transformative in the way we think, shaping, I think for me, my understanding of empowerment, not realizing people are really looking at me for different things. And just like Lonnie talked about,
Mhm.
people are saying, "Oh, well, Black barber." It's understanding that you are empowering and you are a part of Black history and the value of community in overcoming a lot of that adversity. And so, through some of my engagements with a lot of organizations, American Heart Association, and other organizations, the D9 sorority fraternity type organizations. Um, we not only gain access to resources, but we can also help create that legacy and support for our future generations. So thank you both for really, really touching on that and how Black history really influences, and the history that we're making right now, how that influences our communities and touches on the resources. So, Marissa, did we have any questions?
The first
Oh, we
question.
do. Okay.
The first question is from Carter Williams, and it's, with what you have seen and your personal experience, what would you tell your younger self? Kind of a fun one.
Okay. I'll
Just
go
for
ahead
both.
and jump in there. I was always, many of you probably remember this saying, you've got to go along to get along. I don't know if some of y'all may have heard that. And so, in the in in personal and professional life, um, I've always worked to be a part of something, to contribute, to make things better, and I still do believe in it. But I also believe that there is a point where I identified that I had ideas that weren't being acted on. It's like I was hitting a glass ceiling, or I felt like the ideas I contributed were kind of minimized. But then later down the road, I see this new project or new plan come out, and I'm like, wait a minute. I told
Mm.
you all that like 6 months ago what happened. And so I would have told myself to be bolder and to take action with the ideas and the projects and things that I believe very strongly about, instead of waiting for someone to pick up my idea or to take my suggestion and to do the work. I would have encouraged myself to, you know, believe more in myself and to take action to do it myself. But when I'll be quite candid, when it comes to nursing, I believe we're about 10% of the nursing work. Black nurses are about only 10% of the healthcare workforce. It can be challenging sometimes. You want to make progress, but if you make too much progress, then they don't want to work with you because someone's fearful about losing their job. So it's a very, if I'm just going to be transparent, if I may, we get into a space of excellence where we can do the work, but it's, you can do good, but don't do better than me. And so I always kind of walk this fine line of wanting to do work, but also being concerned that, okay, if I do too good of a job, then they're not going to want me around, and then I'll lose all access to being able to do any of this work. And I would have told myself, throw that idea out the window a long time ago and to just do the work. I think that's one of the things that actually contributes to Black excellence, and the people who've made strides through that out through that idea out the window, and just progressed with their dreams and their vision and did the work.
Yeah, I like Alice. I like all your answers, Alice. I like them all. I love being on this panel with you. I really agree with a lot of what Alice said. Just almost getting out of your way. Just do it.
Yes.
Just do it. And I'll wait. One thing about me, I've always been a doer. I've been an entrepreneur since I can remember, and I tried things. I think for me, I probably would not do as many things at once. Go ahead and just focus in on one thing. They say if you could do good at multiple things, but you could do great at one. So I'd rather go and be great at something, milk the hell out of it, and then go ahead and move on to the next one, and do the same type of pattern. I've been such a hustler all my life that my biggest problem will probably be I could do so many things, but just because you can doesn't mean you should, not all at once.
Yeah.
So what I'm learning now is to partner with other people, and then that's the way you can do multiple things, and you can give more to it and make sure you go towards greatness and excellence and not just settle for good. Um, and then, as far as the history part of things, to answer this person's question, I would, yeah, jack of all trades, master of none. You're right, man. That's. Ooh, I hate the. I cringe at it now. You know what I mean? Because you could always see better in hindsight. Um, but anyhow, as far as history goes, history, I would just be a history nerd, man. With just the the value in history that I see now. I was the guy that went to school and just decided I didn't feel like going anymore today, and I left, and I would just go off into the world and do whatever I wanted to do. I was the epitome of too cool for school, not stupid, just too cool for school. And now I feel like I'm more of a nerd now. Like I'm addicted to education, and so I try to use my platforms to show people that may think the way that I used to think, that education is not just institutional education. Education comes in so many different ways. I mean, we're educating each other tonight. So yeah, I would go back and just be a nerd of history and education in every way I can, because I now understand that whole term of information is everything. That's why they call it the information age, So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully that answers that question good enough for you.
If I could just add
Good.
on to something Lonnie just
Yes.
said, um, and listen, I I like your responses as well. I'm like, oh man, that's a good. I should have said that too. But if I could just frame this, I've been in this healthcare space for 25 years, taking direct care of patients, but also I've had the opportunity to do community outreach through several organizations, and then even extend it onto television, um, because that's another way to inform viewers who maybe aren't coming necessarily in the hospital at the moment, to still educate them. And one of the things that I commonly faced was not being able to always tell the stories or tell it from the angle of which I feel that certain groups would benefit most from. So I alluded to the things about kidney disease and the GFR, about diabetes and hemoglobin A1C. And so that actually, while I always kind of did it in the background, I put more eggs in my own basket. And that's what actually fueled my fire for AskNurseAlice.com, so I could really answer the questions that people were asking me. Because sometimes, there's a kind of a blanket statement about a particular health topic or condition. You get the generic patient education information, but how is it specific to you, your conditions, your with the economic situation that you're in, where you live, with your medical history. And so I really wanted. So when I said earlier that I was kind of waiting or working towards others' goals, yeah, I can contribute on this station, I can contribute here, but it wasn't allowing me to really fully operate in my medical greatness and really educate the people in a way that I felt that they wanted, and to answer the questions they were asking me. So that's what caused me to really go in with AskNurseAlice.com in my podcast. But and to do that, I had to fall back on some other things. So yes, you can't do everything at once.
Yes,
It's
that
LA. We gotta keep talking after this, Alice.
Yes.
this is really great. Thank you so much. And I think for me, both of you had a combination of what I would tell my younger self, and history, so that you kind of know what has happened before, so that you're not
Yeah.
repeating maybe some of the same mistakes,
Yeah.
and so that you're building on what has already happened. So a lot of people, and I found that through my doctoral studies, about looking at what has been done before and see if you can build on that instead of
Mm,
recreating the wheel. So I definitely would do that. And the other one is, you can't do it alone. because you kind of work tunnel vision thinking I'm gonna make these strides, I'm gonna do these kind of things, but you really can't do it alone and shouldn't do it alone. You want to get some input, and if there's a group that's moving in a direction that that's a part of your goals and part of your passion, then go ahead with that, because you can do more with more people or more information. So I think those are some of the things I would tell myself as well. Do we have any other questions,
Well,
Marissa?
but it's actually
Or did
mine.
we answer all of them?
Well, I came up with a question while we were in here that I didn't put in the chat. But I'm just kind of curious because both Lonnie and Alice, you're both entrepreneurial. You have your own businesses. You've created a lot of success. So I was wondering what kind of resources are available or that you can specifically recommend from your own experience that would help Black-owned businesses and Black entrepreneurs succeed and, tying it into our topic, achieve excellence. So,
You know,
and
go
with
ahead.
that as
No, go
well,
ahead, go ahead.
is
Um, this kind of ties back into my last answer a little bit. One thing that I wanted to add to that I think will lead me into this answer is another thing I would do in hindsight is get models earlier. You need models. You want to find people that have done or are doing what you want to do, and it kind of fits in with what was just said. Learning where somebody left off so you can add to it. It's like, why try to reinvent the wheel? We hear all these sayings, but we don't really apply it to our own journey sometimes. So I would definitely start off by saying get a model. And then that prompts another question is how do you get a model? Well, I mean, we could use this internet for researching everything that don't mean anything except for something that means something. So, this social media is so much more powerful than looking up drama, and gossip. You could look up, you could find me on social media. You could find Alice on social media. I'm looking at her page right now. You could DM these people. And one piece of advice I would give people who do want to get behind modeling is don't go in asking, go in giving. I learned that from studying Robert Kiyosaki, which is, if you want something for somebody, I get people all the time that say, hey, um, I just want to pick your brain. And there is nothing that sounds attractive about that to me. That time is real valuable for me. I have a family, businesses. When you say I just want to pick your brain, that could be a 24-hour thing. That could be a 2-week thing. I don't know what that means. That's actually something that makes me want to stand back a little bit. But for somebody who says, hey, I would love to take you to lunch, we all got to eat. I would love to take you to lunch. That's a contribution right there. And I would love to get 30 minutes of your time. Now that's something I could work with. As a business person, time is everything. It's more valuable than money. So now I could even tell that, okay, this person is already considering my time, even if it's an hour, but just giving me something specific. And I have a notepad of questions that I just want to fire away while I feed you this lunch. That kind of approach can get you a model, a mentor, and I think that's a great place to start. Now, another thing is is I would say focus on building yourself. And what I mean by that is there's so many self-help books, audio books, YouTube channels out here. Find something that, spend the time, you're worth the time. So spend that time investing into researching and finding these channels, these books that deliver information that's pertinent to where you want to go in life. And the one thing that I always notice as the first step in any of these books is it's always about building your mindset. So I would say it would be really important to find out how to assess where you are with your mindset right now before you even approach a model. Maybe you may not be ready just yet. Maybe you need some more mindset building first. But no matter what, those are two very important things that could really skyrocket something that you want to do in your entrepreneurship. So I would say finding a model and building your mindset is going to be two big things.
Those are really, really great points. Gosh, I'm not exactly sure in the little bit of time that we have what I would recommend for people. Marissa, I think the question was, what advice would we have for people who also have an entrepreneurial spirit? What advice would we give them as far as resources and how to move forward? Right? Is that the essence of the question?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say I went about it all wrong, which is why I can tell I would be happy to have lunch with someone and fire away your questions. 'Cause I'm gonna tell you what not to do, because I lived it. And one of the things I would say is for anyone who is pursuing business, a business venture, a specialties, do some research. We all have like, oh, I have this wonderful idea. And we think our idea is so unique and so like, no one's thought of this, no one's done this. But the truth is, great minds think alike. And there are other great people out here who have the same idea as you. But, and I think what's the statistics? About 90% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years, is it first 2 years? And so I would say research what it is that you want to do. Before you're like, I want to have a health wellness conference. I'm gonna, before you put the deposit down, do all these things. Have you gone to conference? Have you looked outside of looking at just the content? Because I'm sure you got the content down, but have you looked at, okay, well, what's the parking over here? What's the like? Take the blinders off and look at the big picture. And I think many entrepreneurs make that mistake of rushing in too quickly with their blinders on, not looking at the big picture of everything that's included. So I would say, to Lonnie's point, find a mentor, do some research, and there's always going to be capital that's needed. And I think many entrepreneurs, they dig into their own bag, into their own purse, and then that takes away from family and other bills, which can cause a real strain and make something that you were once really, really passionate about now become something dreadful and that you wish you would have never done. And you really got to think about, are there grants that I can apply for? A small business, women's grant. Like there are different business grants that are out there. So do some research to see what monies are there for startup companies that you're interested in doing. There may be quite a few of them. And then also with planning. That it's not like you put in an application for a grant, it's not going to come on in 2 weeks. Realize that there's a process. So
Yeah.
don't rush it, do some research, plan wisely. That extra time you spend on the front end preparing yourself will save you a lot of grief, headache, heartache, tears, and money in the long run. So, and then again, yes, having that mentor, especially someone who's in the industry or even in a parallel field. I'll say this, as a
Yeah.
healthcare provider, I've had several mentors who were in finance, law, education. They didn't necessarily have to be exactly in my same industry. There were a lot of parallels that I could draw from, and which were actually great because it helped me think outside the box because I was only thinking with my healthcare glasses on, and they were able to help me think big picture. So those are a few things that uh, some things that and don't go quitting your job and going full fledged entrepreneur right away. What I there'll be plenty of work to come. Just plan ahead and be wise about it and use the guidance of your mentor. Again, and I'm telling you all these things because I did I did all of these things, so I know lots of tears, lots of
I
heartache
thought
there.
you had
But
some good points, Alice, and I also think I'm sorry to jump in. I just didn't want to lose it. You touched on the mentoring thing, and I think we both agree that that's probably one of the best things that you can do. And I wanted to add not only just taking somebody to lunch, volunteering, like going
oh
finding out,
yeah.
yeah, finding out what it is that they need, that you can take off of their plate. I mean, just random, example. This is not
Hmm.
it, but you want to run a barbershop. I know as you think of a sweeper as like a kid on the weekends, but go and sweep. You know what I mean? Like literally, let me come and help clean
Yeah.
these windows. Let me carry these things out for you. Find a way to bring value. I think that's the best way um, to simplify what we're both trying to say is when you're going for that mentor, find a way to bring value. And then you're just placing yourself around that greatness that now your job is to just take notes.
Yes,
Mhm.
I agree with that.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. And that works, in the corporate world as well. Find some value, do some of those tasks nobody wants to do. Oh, we need a list of names of everybody that has ever been on the parking lot. Okay, I'll do it. Get that list
Yeah.
together. And so you start getting other work to do, and now you are around people that are doing some things that you may eventually aspire to. So I like that, finding value. That can be entrepreneur as well as in the corporate world. Just finding that value. Volunteering. Because for me, being in different other volunteer organizations, I learned so much in those organizations to be able to
Mhm.
take back to work with me, because there were some things in my job that I didn't have access to. So I didn't have access to understanding finance or the budget, or the health initiatives or HR, because I was doing one specific thing, in the cybersecurity world, cyber intelligence. So I didn't have that. So when I'm in other organizations now, okay, well, let me see, I'll be the treasurer. So
Mm,
now I'm
Yeah.
understanding budgets, putting together the financial statements and
smart.
understanding the 990. So now when I go back over to work, I'm able to understand, oh yeah, to build these planes and these laser technology, okay, this is what a budget would need to look like, in doing that. So volunteer where you can get information to be, well-rounded in a lot of things. So I like that, Nurse Alice, you did kind of allude to that there are a lot of things surrounding the one thing that you want to do, but there are
Hmm.
a lot of others, that bigger picture of what you want. So
Yeah, I
And
like
Dr.
that.
Juanita, if I could
yes.
just add to that, and here's my personal testimony. Um, when I started off doing blood pressures at American Heart Association's community events. Fast forward after several years, I became a national spokesperson as well as the chair for their Western States affiliates, the Health Inequity Task Force, which covered 10 states and influenced programs of 65 million people in a community in a volunteer capacity. And so I learned so much, networked, met stakeholders of different hospitals, researchers, scientists, like so many people. And so I took that experience and I went back to the hospital and they're like, you did what? Like they could have never provided me that exposure, that network, and to do.
Exactly.
And what Dr. Juanita, like you do this, you're doing this in a safe place, a place that you want to be. And you're volunteering because
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
motivated. Now I know
Hmm.
that there are bills, but we're motivated differently, right? Motivated to help the community learn more. And there's like a hunger that was in me. So I learned so much. And I came back to the hospital and
Yes.
I was actually interviewing for the patient safety manager of the entire hospital here at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. And so it was actually that volunteer experience that landed me the job that I'd
Yes.
wanted at that time. So when it comes to
Exactly.
Black excellence, you got to figure out like, because I couldn't get that leadership experience at work. So in the
Exactly.
spirit of Black excellence, there's going to be glass ceilings. There's going to be closed doors,
Hmm.
either
Hmm.
because they're locked or because they don't lead anywhere or because they're just holding the door closed and don't want you to open it. And so where there's a will, there's a way. And then you can find these opportunities,
You
get the
can.
experience and knowledge, and then just go forward. So thanks for
Yeah.
bringing that up.
Yeah. And you know what? What we call this in the industry is failing safely. Okay. So when
Hmm.
you're in a volunteer organization, they let me be the treasurer. Doesn't mean I'm going to tear up all the books and the money or anything like that.
Right.
But if I failed, I could fail safely
Safe.
and
Yes.
there's not a lot of harm, to my reputation, my career, and I didn't, mess up their funds or anything, but I could fail
Yeah.
safely there. So
I like that.
whereas, when you're at work or entrepreneur doing your own things, you may not be able to fail as safely. So
Right.
I think the volunteerism gives you a chance to hone a lot of skills,
Yes.
to brush up on different things, to learn a lot of new things that you could bring over to the
Hmm.
entrepreneurship or to the corporate world.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I have one little short one to add is really quick.
Okay.
So from age 24 to 28, I opened my own print shop. We did banners,
Mm.
we printed business cards, flyers, and so forth. I was kind of what you just said, Juanita. I was failing, I was winning, but then when I was failing, I was receiving the hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got tired of it and I want to win so bad. I actually went and applied for a job at FedEx Kinko's. And it was a trip because now you're getting paid to learn the system that you were freestyling. So I literally would work their graveyard and then go and open my own doors the next morning. And it
Yeah.
gave me so much more perspective. It for
Yeah.
things I was stressing on, it simplified it for me. Just seeing their sheets and their
Hmm.
numbers on how they just how they recorded everything, it just changed the game for me. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure we give these people asking these questions as much broad perspective as
Mm-hmm.
possible.
Mm-hmm.
Volunteering for sure, but if you could find a way to even go work in the field, I tell people
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's. It's funny
Oh
how
yeah.
somebody works at McDonald's and they'll say something like, "Oh, this is just a stepping stone," and I'm like, "You realize this is a multi-billion-dollar company, right? So
Yeah.
it means they have proven systems. It's all about what you do when you go work in McDonald's. If you treat it like it's just a stepping stone job, then that's all it is. But if you're looking around and you're recording the systems and how things work, then you're actually getting paid to educate yourself on
Hmm.
how this company became what it
Yeah.
is."
Yes, that is so great. Marissa, any other questions or anything before we go to some final remarks?
We did have one more question, but I think we don't have a lot of time. So maybe just pick one or two words to describe your answer. And the question was, what qualities do you look for in a mentor? So maybe pick a couple words so that we can
I'll let you
I
finish.
go,
got one.
Alice.
Pick a mentor who wants to be a mentor.
Oh, mm-hmm,
That's
mm-hmm,
because that will be someone who will be uh I find that those are they're more nurturing. It doesn't, because you want to glean information from them. If someone doesn't have time, they don't really want to talk, it makes an experience not a good experience for you. So in order for you to get the best experience, pick a mentor who wants to be a mentor. And the way you make them want to be a mentor is by leading with service. Hey, can I go with you to your health fair event? I can man the booths, I can do this, I'll help with check-in, and making their job easier.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When you say knowledgeable,
And not, oh,
someone that is knowledgeable, that has information to give.
oh yes,
So that
of
that
course.
that was just my one word. And what about you, Lonnie?
Mine would be finding a mentor who is has either done what it is that you want to do or learn, or is actually in the act of it. Just be careful to not
Mhm.
get behind somebody that just talk good. We could
Oh,
all talk real good. Just making sure that
mm-hmm,
they really are that, and then just a person
mm-hmm.
that likes to share. That likes to share and not
Yeah.
just preach, but they'll be transparent and they'll share with you the pros and the cons.
Okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you both for your openness and sharing your experiences with us this evening. And I want to give you both just a few minutes to share just any final remarks that you may have. And we'll start with you, Nurse Alice.
Well, thank you so much for having me. There's tons of things I could talk about, but one of my mantra is I like to talk to people before they become my patients. And while I know everyone has their healthcare provider already, if you have any questions, you can please visit asknursealice.com. There's tons of articles, recipes, there's a health library, a symptom checker, all those kind of tools are available. And that health library is hospital quality grade. So please visit that for information. And then also, if you're like to listen to things, especially on your drive, check out the Ask Nurse Alice podcast, where I also talk about health, wellness, things that are impacting healthcare, maybe from finance, insurance, and just getting your questions answered so you can be a better health consumer. So that's where you can find me, and those are the things I'm working on. And I did write an article for everyone today, the top nine questions you should ask your doctor to get the most out of your visit. So that's also something I wanted to share today that I created for y'all.
Great, great, great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then Lonnie, any last remarks?
Yeah, I would like to encourage people to, dream big. And if you are a really big dreamer, um, just know that things aren't always what they look like from the exterior. So, one of the biggest tips I could give is enjoy the journey, because a lot of times we
Mm,
think we're chasing some destination. And the more successful people I study, you just kind of find these similarities in them, where you always hear that they get to this point and they get bored or they're tired. Well, it's because there was no real destination. The fun part was the actual journey. And then if you are if you're working on being an entrepreneur, go help somebody with their entrepreneurial journey and show up as a business owner. I tell every barber in my shop, treat the shop like it's your shop. That's what
mhm,
makes the whole team look good. If you're an employee somewhere, be an employee with a sense of ownership. If you work at
mhm,
McDonald's, tuck your shirt in and show up with pride, and
mhm,
try to learn everything about every system around you. And then also, everything is not about being an entrepreneur. I learned that is it's a job title.
mhm,
It's a path, but it's not. Everybody can't do that path, and everybody shouldn't. And it's not always the most fun path. So if you're a person that you just want greater things in life financially and so
mhm,
forth, it doesn't always come through entrepreneurship. You could become an investor, being a school teacher. There's other ways to get there. So yeah, I just want to, if it's what you're going for, then go help somebody and show up as an entrepreneur, and enjoy the journey along the way. If you just want greater things, but you're not sure if this is it for you, then own your job. Show up
mhm,
with
mhm,
pride, and
mhm,
learn money management, and how to invest it and grow that money to get to those things other ways. So hopefully that's helpful
mhm.
for people.
Well
It's
said.
so great.
Very
And
well said.
I think my last remark would be from taking from all of this. And what I found is to follow your passion.
Yeah.
And I think that's gonna breed that everyday excellence. So follow your passion. Find some things that you're passionate about. It's hard to do, especially like Lonnie said about liking everything and want to put your hands in everything. But try to find that passion, and then I think that will breed that everyday excellence that we're all striving for. So, thank you, thank you, thank you for everyone in the audience. And we really want to thank our panel. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we do hope you got something out of tonight's conversation. So visit our website at www.aarp.org/CA to find more activities you can join virtually and in person. And this ends our program. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.